Welcome, beautiful damsels. The loudest silence is the one that echoes when a Sigma female is ignored. In a world where most people clamor for attention, the Sigma female thrives in the shadows, undeterred by the absence of applause. She's not your average personality archetype. She's an enigma wrapped in resilience, with a knack for turning dismissive behavior into her secret weapon. Did you know that 68% of people report feeling anxious when ignored? For a Sigma female, though, it's not anxiety, it's analysis. What happens when you ignore someone who's already mastered the art of independence? Let's just say, you might want to keep a safe distance. With every cold shoulder she receives, she doesn't crumble. She strategizes. And while she's not here to demand your attention, you'll regret the day you chose to ignore her, probably while scrolling through her impressive list of accomplishments that she achieved while you weren't looking. Prepare to dive into the fascinating and unexpected world of what a Sigma female really does when the world turns its back on her. Spoiler: she doesn't just walk away, she walks ahead. Number one, she sees ignorance as liberation. When a Sigma female is ignored, she doesn't view it as rejection or failure. Instead, she sees it as liberation, freedom from expectations, toxic dynamics, and the need to entertain energy that doesn't serve her. To her, being ignored isn't a wound, it's a doorway out of something that wasn't meant for her in the first place. It's as if the silence gives her permission to shed unnecessary baggage and walk lighter, faster, and with more purpose. Rather than wasting time overthinking why someone ignored her, she shifts her focus to the opportunity it presents. Clarity. The absence of someone's attention helps her recognize their true value, or lack of it, in her life. If someone doesn't acknowledge her worth, she has no interest in proving it. She doesn't seek to win them over, because she understands that their inability to see her value is their limitation, not hers. This freedom allows her to prioritize her energy where it matters most, on herself, her goals, and the relationships that genuinely add value to her life. The act of being ignored becomes a quiet blessing, stripping away distractions and leaving her with a sharper focus on her own ambitions. It's not bitterness or pride, it's self-preservation. She knows she thrives best when surrounded by authenticity, and someone's neglect simply accelerates the process of filtering them out. Liberation doesn't mean she forgets the slight. It means she reclaims her power by choosing not to care. By the time others realize what they've lost, she's already moved on, better and stronger. To her, being ignored isn't a setback. It's a clean slate, a chance to let go of what wasn't meant for her and stride confidently towards something greater. Number two, she turns cold, but not bitter. When a Sigma female turns cold, it's not out of malice or bitterness. It's a calculated response born from her deep understanding of human nature and self-worth. She recognizes that not everyone who enters her life deserves access to her emotions, her thoughts, or the softer, more vulnerable parts of who she is. To her, emotional detachment is not a defense mechanism, it's a boundary, a way of protecting her inner peace and maintaining control over her narrative. This coldness isn't laced with resentment or grudges. She doesn't carry the weight of anger because she sees no value in it. Instead, she operates with clarity, knowing that wasting emotional energy on those who dismiss or ignore her only detracts from her growth. Her cold demeanor is simply a signal that her energy is now reserved for herself and those who genuinely value her presence. This shift in approach often confuses others. They mistake her detachment for aloofness or even arrogance. In truth, it's her way of showing respect for herself. She refuses to let anyone's disregard dictate her emotions. While others might lash out, demand attention, or crumble under the weight of being ignored, the Sigma female leans into logic and self-preservation. Her coldness isn't cruel, it's precise. She'll still treat others with basic respect, but the warmth she once offered is gone, replaced by a calm, unshakable distance. It's not about punishing anyone, it's about ensuring her energy is spent wisely. And when she moves forward, there's no looking back. Those who experience her coldness often regret it, realizing too late that her warmth was a rare gift, not a guarantee. Number three, she resists the prove them wrong trope. A Sigma female doesn't waste her time on the exhausting and often futile quest of trying to prove them wrong. She doesn't need applause from people who underestimated her or validation from those who dismissed her. She operates from a place of unshakable self-assurance, fully aware of her own worth without needing external acknowledgement to confirm it. When someone ignores her, she doesn't see it as a challenge to demonstrate how wrong they were. She doesn't plot some dramatic comeback or seek revenge through success. Why? Because their opinion holds no weight in her life. She knows that her value is inherent, not dependent on someone else recognizing it. This quiet confidence makes her immune to the trap of seeking approval from people who chose to overlook her in the first place. While others might find motivation in proving doubters wrong, she finds motivation in living for herself. Her accomplishments aren't fueled by spite or the need to make someone regret their choices. They're driven by her own ambitions, passions, and the standards she set for herself. In fact, she rarely even thinks about those who ignored her. It's as if they cease to exist in her mental space. This approach isn't about pride or arrogance, it's about prioritizing her energy. She refuses to let others dictate the direction of her life, even indirectly through the need to prove something to them. Instead, she focuses on becoming the best version of herself, not for them, but for herself. In doing so, she achieves something far more powerful than proving them wrong. She renders their opinions completely irrelevant. Number 4. She questions, then dismisses. When a Sigma female is ignored, her first instinct isn't anger or self-pity, it's reflection. She briefly pauses to question if she played a role in the situation. Did she unknowingly offend? Did she fail to meet some expectation? This isn't self-doubt, but a practical attempt to understand the dynamic. She values accountability and isn't afraid to acknowledge her mistakes, but only if they genuinely exist. However, this period of introspection doesn't last long. A Sigma female doesn't spiral into overthinking or self-blame. Once she's analyzed the situation with a level head, she reaches a clear conclusion. If she finds no substantial fault in her actions, she doesn't internalize the blame. Instead, she concludes that being ignored says more about the other person than it does about her. She dismisses the entire scenario not out of arrogance, but out of a deep understanding of her worth. To her, emotional energy is a currency, and spending it on someone who doesn't recognize her value is a poor investment. She knows her time is better spent focusing on people and pursuits that genuinely matter. This dismissal isn't passive-aggressive or bitter, it's clean and final. She doesn't harbor resentment or dwell on what could have been. Instead, she moves forward with a quiet confidence, understanding that the loss isn't hers to carry. She recognizes that not everyone is equipped to appreciate her depth or individuality, and that's fine. Her world doesn't stop for anyone unwilling to meet her halfway. By questioning and then dismissing, she reaffirms her own value without unnecessary drama. The people who ignored her fade into irrelevance, while she continues to build a life defined by strength, clarity, and self-respect. Number 5. She creates a vacuum of influence. When a Sigma female is ignored, she doesn't beg for attention or force herself back into someone's life. Instead, she steps away completely, taking not just her presence but her influence with her. Her withdrawal is not merely physical, it's emotional, intellectual, and often social. The result? A vacuum that the other person may not immediately notice but will eventually feel profoundly. Her influence isn't loud or attention-seeking, it's subtle yet transformative. She's the one who inspires, supports, and uplifts, often without people realizing how much they rely on her until she's gone. When she retreats, it's like a vital piece of the puzzle has been removed. Everything around that person feels slightly off balance. What makes this vacuum so impactful is its irreplaceability. A Sigma female doesn't mold herself to fit others. She brings her unique energy, perspective, and presence into every connection. When she withdraws, it's not something that can be easily replaced by someone else. She leaves behind an unfillable gap, and those who ignored her often find themselves trying and failing to replicate what she brought into their lives. This isn't a calculated attempt to make anyone feel bad. She doesn't pull away to manipulate or punish. Her withdrawal is a natural consequence of being ignored, a protective measure for her peace and self-respect. But in doing so, she inadvertently creates a lasting impression, a reminder of what happens when you take her presence for granted. Over time, the vacuum she leaves becomes undeniable. Those who ignored her may find themselves questioning how they overlooked someone so integral to their world. By then, it's often too late. The Sigma female has moved on, leaving behind a quiet but unmistakable legacy that lingers long after she's gone. Number 6. She rebrands herself. When a Sigma female is ignored, she doesn't waste time sulking or seeking attention. Instead, she turns the experience into a catalyst for transformation. For her, moments of being dismissed or overlooked are opportunities to evolve. She sees them as a chance to shed outdated versions of herself and emerge stronger, sharper, and more refined. This rebranding isn't about putting on a facade or becoming someone she's not. It's about amplifying who she already is, her strengths, her ambitions, and her unique qualities. She takes a step back, evaluates what's working in her life, and identifies areas for growth. This isn't an attempt to prove anything to others, but a commitment to her own continuous improvement. Her process is deliberate and introspective. She might adopt new skills, refine her goals, or realign her priorities, all while maintaining her authenticity. The result is a version of herself that is not only more self-assured, but also more aligned with her aspirations. When she re-emerges, it's impossible not to notice the change. There's a quiet confidence in her demeanor, an undeniable sense of purpose in her actions. She doesn't announce her evolution or seek validation. It's simply evident in the way she carries herself. For those who ignored her, this transformation can be startling. They often realize too late that she's now operating on an entirely different level, one where their opinions no longer matter. By rebranding herself, she not only rises above the situation, but also solidifies her position as someone who thrives under any circumstance. The Sigma female uses every setback as fuel for her growth, proving that being ignored isn't a limitation, it's an opportunity for reinvention. Number 7. She plays the long game. When a Sigma female is ignored, she doesn't react impulsively or seek immediate resolution. Instead, she takes a step back, observing and analyzing the situation with calm detachment. Her response isn't about quick fixes or dramatic displays. It's about patience and foresight. She understands that time has a way of exposing the true dynamics of any relationship, and she's more than willing to wait. While others might feel the urge to prove a point or force recognition, the Sigma female lets silence do the work for her. She knows that those who ignore her now may come to regret it later, not because she orchestrates their regret, but because time naturally reveals her value. As she quietly continues on her path, achieving, growing, and evolving, the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. Her approach to the long game isn't about revenge or validation, it's about alignment. She trusts that the right connections will remain, while the superficial ones will fade away. She doesn't chase after those who overlook her, nor does she harbor bitterness toward them. Instead, she focuses on building her life in a way that reflects her worth, knowing that her success and self-assurance will speak volumes over time. When regret inevitably sets in for those who took her presence for granted, she's already far ahead, mentally, emotionally, and often in life. By then, her priorities have shifted, and their regret is no longer relevant to her. Her patience and ability to outlast fleeting slights aren't signs of weakness, but of profound strength. The Sigma female knows that true power lies not in proving others wrong, but in quietly and consistently proving herself right. Number 8. She evaluates, not reacts. When a Sigma female is ignored, her instinct isn't to lash out, demand attention, or seek validation. Instead, she approaches the situation with composure and a sharp analytical mindset. Her first step is to evaluate, methodically and without emotional overreaction, why she's being ignored. Is it intentional? Is it a misunderstanding? Or is it simply a reflection of the other person's inability to value her? She dissects the scenario piece by piece, ensuring she sees the full picture before deciding on her next move. This process isn't about insecurity or self-doubt. It's about efficiency. She values her time and emotional energy too much to waste it on superficial reactions. If she determines that the other person's actions are rooted in immaturity, disrespect, or manipulative behavior, she immediately weighs whether they're worth her investment at all. She doesn't give people the benefit of the doubt endlessly. Her analysis is clear-cut. If they don't align with her values or fail to recognize her worth, she shifts her focus elsewhere. Unlike people who react impulsively, the Sigma female plays the long game with her decisions. She doesn't confront the person out of desperation or frustration. She simply recalibrates her priorities. If someone doesn't value her presence, she withdraws gracefully, ensuring they no longer benefit from her energy or influence. By evaluating, rather than reacting, she avoids unnecessary drama and protects her emotional well-being. This measured approach not only keeps her in control, but also reinforces her self-respect. The Sigma female understands that not everyone deserves access to her, and those who ignore her often don't realize they've underestimated someone who thrives on clarity, not chaos. Number 9. She doesn't chase. She reprioritizes. When a Sigma female is ignored, she doesn't chase after the person who's dismissed her. Instead, she recalibrates and shifts her focus to what truly matters. Being ignored doesn't create a sense of urgency for her to regain someone's attention. It highlights how she's better off redirecting her time and energy to things that genuinely value her presence. She understands that her energy is a limited resource, and it's too precious to waste on individuals who don't recognize its worth. Instead of trying to win over someone who's indifferent to her, she invests in pursuits, people, and projects that appreciate her. Whether it's her personal growth, her passions, or the relationships that give her joy, she reallocates her focus to things that enrich her life. This shift is instinctual for her. She doesn't need to force or even consciously decide it. Once someone shows they're indifferent or dismissive, she naturally moves on. She doesn't waste emotional effort begging for validation or trying to prove herself to those who clearly don't value her. Her energy is too valuable for that. What's striking about this is that it doesn't feel like a loss for her. It's a practical, calm decision to stop investing in something that doesn't pay off. Instead of chasing after fleeting approval, she pours her efforts into areas that offer real, tangible growth. Those who ignored her might eventually wonder why she's not chasing them. But by then, she's already flourishing in places where her presence is recognized, appreciated, and reciprocated. Number 10. She subtly elevates her presence. When a Sigma female is ignored, she doesn't waste her energy confronting the situation head-on or seeking attention. Instead, she quietly elevates her presence by amplifying her accomplishments and personal growth, but without fanfare. The more she achieves, the more her absence in certain spaces becomes noticeable. It's almost as if her absence speaks louder than her presence ever could. Rather than demanding recognition or validation, she allows her actions to do the talking. She may pursue new projects, tackle challenges, or further develop her skills, all while remaining calm and composed. Those who ignored her might not even realize it at first, but as her success continues to unfold, it becomes glaringly obvious that she's not just idle, she's thriving. This subtle elevation isn't about showing off or rubbing her achievements in anyone's face. It's about quietly asserting her worth and making it clear that she doesn't need validation to be valuable. The more she elevates her own life, the more her absence from certain dynamics leaves a void that others can't help but feel. The beauty of this approach is in its simplicity. She doesn't have to announce her success or make a big deal about the growth she's experiencing. She doesn't need to force her presence or beg for attention. Instead, the shift in her energy becomes impossible to ignore. She doesn't even have to address the ones who overlooked her. Her accomplishments do that for her, drawing attention to what they were blind to in the first place. In the end, they find themselves longing for the very energy they took for granted, energy that's now reserved for more deserving pursuits. In the end, when a Sigma female is ignored, she doesn't crumble or chase. She transforms, recalibrates, and elevates herself beyond the reach of those who failed to recognize her worth. Her strength lies not in seeking validation or revenge, but in her ability to turn every moment of neglect into an opportunity for growth. She doesn't play by the rules of petty drama or desperate attempts for attention. Instead, she steps back, assesses the situation, and uses it as fuel to refine her path. For her, being ignored isn't a loss. It's a chance to rise above, to rebrand, and to redirect her energy toward pursuits that genuinely honor her value. She becomes a living testament to self-respect, prioritizing authenticity and long-term fulfillment over fleeting approval. As she moves forward, it's not about proving others wrong, it's about proving to herself that she's already on the right path, with or without the acknowledgement of those who failed to see her greatness. By quietly withdrawing her influence, amplifying her own success, and trusting in the natural course of time, the Sigma female shows that true power lies in patience, introspection, and knowing when to walk away from what no longer serves her. In the end, it's not their loss, it's theirs to regret, while she continues to thrive, unbothered and untouchable. If you found this insight into the Sigma female's world intriguing, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on more content like this. Don't forget to like, comment, and share with those who need to see just how powerful self-assurance and resilience can be. Your support helps us keep delivering exceptional, thought-provoking content. So let's keep this conversation going. Thanks, damsels, for tuning in. See you in the next vid. Bye, and stay blessed.